We're live. Well, welcome everyone. We will get started momentarily. My name is Ricky Shabazz. I have the honor and privilege of being the president of San Diego City College, and it's even more so my honor and privilege to lead these forums today. We are going to wait till folks get online, give them some time to get online, and I want to thank Renessa and Geo Caesar for helping with today's live broadcast, and wish all of our candidates well. It's an exciting opportunity for the San Diego College of Education to select your next president. We will get started momentarily, but thank you all for being here. Well, welcome everyone. Again, my name is Ricky Shabazz. I have the honor and privilege of being the president of San Diego City College. I get the distinct honor of leading the forums today. We have three very exciting candidates that are up to be the president, your president of the College of Continuing Education, as part of the selection process and the forum process. At the end of the forums today, you will be receiving an email with a link to provide feedback on each of the three candidates. So please be on the lookout for that email. You also can use the QR code and the link that is on your screen. I would like to, before I introduce our wonderful candidate who is joining us today, I'd like to kind of go over how the forums are going to occur. We have about 45 minutes to get to know our candidate a lot better. There are questions that were submitted from the 4 constituency groups. I will be reading them. The candidate will begin with a 3 to 5 minute opening statement. They will have the 8 questions, 2 questions each from the constituency groups, and then they will conclude with a 3 to 5 minute recap. Again, at the end of the 3 forums, there will be an email sent to you with a link to provide feedback on each of the 3 candidates. And with that said, Gio, if we can unshare, and it is my honor to introduce our first candidate, someone who I'm sure you all know very well. We are glad, Dr. Fischthal, that you would join us today. And again, you will have an opportunity to provide a 3 to 5 minute opening. When you're done, just let me know and I will begin the questions. And we have 8 questions, about 45 minutes, and then you'll have 3 to 5 minutes to wrap up with a concluding statement. With that said, your 3 to 5 minute opening statement begins now.
Well, thank you, President Shabazz. I am honored and humbled to be here today to share a bit about myself and my vision for San Diego College of Continuing Education. First, The College of Continuing Education is filled with extraordinary people, and I know this from being part of the CE family for over a decade. I have served as a Dean of Business and Information Technology, Distance Education, Planning Research and Institutional Effectiveness. I've been an adjunct instructor, and I am in my 5th year as Vice President of Instructional Services. That is on top of 8 years in the district office working with student services and IT. I've served in higher education for over 20 years and engaged in the business community for even longer. I worked in international operations, business operations, and financial systems for the 10 years prior to working in higher education. Serving the College of Continuing Education, the San Diego community, advocating for our non-credit students is my calling and passion. Ensuring and advocating for equity, inclusion, and social justice for our students and employees while advocating for non-credit throughout the district, region, and state is what I do every day, and it takes on many forms, including my commitment to research-based educational reform, serving as a non-credit leader on multiple regional and statewide advisory committees, or even being called to speak with the Student-Centered Funding Oversight Committee as I advocate for non-credit funding stability. Recently, someone asked me for my story, my personal and community college story, and so I wanted to share it with you all today. I'm a sister, daughter, mother, aunt. My dad was the first in his family to go to college. He became a systems engineer. My mom was a teacher with special needs preschool and elementary school students, and education has always been important to my family and me. I went to a city university in New York, an open access institution, and I went there explicitly to be in a diverse environment as I pursued a music career. I navigated the world as a young, queer questioning Jewish woman, often in hiding for who I was. And these experiences are why I have always celebrated the differences among us while recognizing the richness of that diversity brings to our lives. Fast forward 12 years, and I'm a business and financial systems consultant moving to San Diego on my own. And when my first project fell through, I turned to the community college to build my skills. Those skills provided me with additional employment opportunities. So I was a skills builder before that was a label. I was also tagged a non-completer because I dropped out of class to go back to work. So I know what it's like to alter educational plans to support one's family. I became a mom and then married when it became legal for same-sex couples after learning to function in a society that treated my family and me differently. I went back to school with 2 young kids, earning 2 degrees over 8 years. And now I am a single parent, supporting my youngest son as he navigates his soon-to-be post-high school future. He too, as did my eldest, benefited from access to the community college. I know what it's like to be afraid of my future financially. I know what it's like to go to school and give up precious time with my kids and family, what it's like for parental responsibilities to impact my ability to attend class. I also know what it's like to change careers as an adult and seek new ways to earn a living. And what it's like to walk into a classroom and feel scared that I don't belong, that I don't fit that mold that everyone is expecting. For these reasons and more, that's why I've always connected with so many of our adult students. And it is my vision for CE students that no one feels othered, that we have systems and a culture that is genuinely accessible, inclusive, and anti-racist, that are barrier-free and create that essential sense of belonging. It is my vision that we create an environment where students and employees feel engaged. I envision our institution where community engagement, collaboration, and partnership are built into all we do. Partnering with our community-based business organizations, our K-12 and our post-secondary schools will result in increased enrollment, student success, and a positive impact on the San Diego community and economy. It is essential we collaborate and build back post-pandemic while learning to navigate the trauma we've experienced over these last 2 years. I also know that vision of inclusivity does not just belong to me. Everyone at CE works towards it: faculty, classified professional administrators, and students. I believe it will be my job as president to enable all CE constituents to use their expertise and passions to feel heard, seen, and supported as we continue together to improve our institution by building on all that has come before. And I look forward to sharing and expanding on that vision with you all today. So thank you, and I look forward to your questions.
Well, thank you. Speaking of questions, you'll have about 45 minutes, and I will let you know at approximately 12:50 that you will have 5 minutes remaining to leave some departing words or recapping words. And so the first question is why we are all here comes from our students, and the students at the College of Continuing Education would like me to raise the following question. COVID has been challenging and exhausting at many levels, especially for students that want to learn in person but have not been able to do due to mandates or other reasons beyond their control. Do you have any thoughts about innovative ways of getting students back to campus, learning and growing the curriculum to address these dynamics?
Absolutely, and that's been something that I have been working towards in collaboration with our faculty leaders and our administrative leaders. We very intentionally thought from an equity perspective, how to come back to campus. And I'll talk briefly about one of the first steps we took, and that was in summer of 2020, when we had welding students with jobs waiting for them. They were the first group we brought back, and we brought back safely so that they could pursue their work and their dreams. Fast forward as we started thinking about the following fall, and the following spring, how can we bring students back safely? But who should we be bringing back through that equity lens, because folks weren't able to be successful online? And we explicitly looked at the start, our beginning ESL students. We knew they were unable to navigate to a large extent being remote. We saw a drop of over 60% that first semester back of our ESL beginning students. And so I engaged with faculty on different modalities and introduced the idea of HighFlex as a modality. HighFlex is where a student can decide if they're going to come on campus to the class or they're going to participate remotely. And they get to decide that each and every day. So we very explicitly are looking at students who haven't been able to be as successful online. We recognize our DSPS students also. Some did really well online, others needed to be on campus. So this spring, fall rather, we looked at bringing back beginning level ESL students, our DSPS students. And even when this spring, we went remote those first 3 weeks, we worked together, the deans and the faculty, in determining who did need to stay on campus for those first 3 weeks. And most of the ESL instructors said, no, we need to be here for our students. So the way that we're working in terms of coming back is very, very explicitly in thinking about the students. We've done multiple surveys, but we also recognize that when you send out an online survey, not all of our students can participate in that survey. So we've been really experimenting with different modalities. And as Vice President of Instruction, I have been providing support mechanisms to enable our faculty to be able to be successful in the classroom. And I've done that from the very beginning in terms of pulling together faculty, a whole faculty mentoring program to support quality distance education. And that is continuing in this HighFlex model. And so as president, what I really want to be doing is engaging with students and asking those questions and finding out what are the greatest challenges. We'll do that through surveying, but there's no better way to do that than actually engaging in those conversations. So as president, while I do have ideas, having collaborated with faculty on the different modalities, it's really important that I engage directly with students, and that would be my approach. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next question comes from our wonderful faculty. What efforts and strategies will you lead, support, and fund to increase student enrollment and engagement after seeing a 50% decline in student enrollment since the pandemic, as well as challenges with current software for our students, registration, and the enrollment process?
All right. That is loaded with lots of different little questions. So let me start out with speaking, I'm going to go a little bit backwards here. One of the challenges that I know we've been having is around technology. Now that's technology from in the classroom to technology and frankly, digital literacy skills by faculty and students. One thing that I'm heading as Vice President of Instruction, been doing a lot of research on, and also putting out some grants, applying to some grant opportunities, is around digital equity for our students. We recognize that that drop has a lot to do with digital equity. And so right now, throughout continuing education, we have lots of folks who are actually doing things. We got a city grant. We've been doing digital equity in terms of providing equipment to folks and now providing some type of training for our students. And we've got our ESL program doing some things. We've got our older adult program doing some things, but we really need to bring it together and we need to find funding. So I actually worked with some of my team in developing almost a white paper in terms of what are the different types of models we can use to bring digital literacy to our institution. And it might be partnering as well. So that's a big component that we all, and I particularly recognize as Vice President of Instruction, and something that I would fully support as the president in terms of that being a critical aspect of retention and bringing students back to our institution. Another piece that I've been talking strongly about is our community and how we're engaging with our community. I firmly believe that without strong community engagement and partnership, really strong and intentional partnerships, we won't be able to build back. And I've been getting additional analytics from a marketing firm we've been working with, and discovered, I think it was just last week, that the students literally surrounding our 7 campuses are those students who aren't back with us. So I'll just repeat that in another way. The zip codes surrounding our campuses, that our campuses are in, those are the students who aren't coming back. And so we've already started talking about engaging the community and doing something huge for our fall enrollment in terms of whether it's open houses, but really professional ways to bring our community into our campus, because that's how we're going to bring community back. That's one thing. The second is we need to recognize that we have built out and expanded into San Diego who actually is taking our classes. And so we don't want to lose the new students we've brought in, but we do want to bring in the students who are no longer with us. And we can do that. And we can do that because we still have faculty, FTEF, we still have faculty hours allocated to us that we're currently not using. And so we have the opportunity to expand at this juncture. So that's going to be a big piece of it. And then one thing that I am leading with our Vice President of Student Services, and it's being sponsored by Access Retention Completion Committee, is our equity-minded strategic enrollment management plan. And I firmly believe that that plan, which is focusing on things like transitions into and out of the institution, that's focused on a student-centered schedule, that's focused on improving onboarding, that's focused on improving and growing our programming. This is going to, this equity enrollment plan is what we can use to literally push improvements out into our organization. And as president, my intent would be to fully support this very comprehensive collaborative plan that's being developed through all the constituency groups in our organization. So there are many pieces to how we can grow post-pandemic, but we need to be doing it together collaboratively, and we all need to be moving in the same direction. And as presidents, one of my big priorities is that collaboration and removing the silos that we've been in, because every department, every division, every project that we're working on does and should integrate with one another. And that's a vision that I have, and integration for me is something that I also very often see very clearly. So collaboration, working with our communities, working with our community partners, but really working all together and listening to the different constituency group is going to help us build back. Thank you.
Thank you. The next question is from our SPA group. What role do you see technology will play in education for the future, and what plans do you have for a successful educational institution for the future?
So I actually have a background in technology. And so this for me, I actually joined the district when we were implementing a new student system. This was very much prior to PeopleSoft. And so my background is in system implementations. And so I'm very often thinking about how can we automate things. We recognized, and we recognized prior to COVID, but it's really shown us the gaps during COVID, that we have challenges with our systems. Those are both the technical systems and our process systems. And I'll go back to that strategic enrollment management. Those are conversations we are having right now about how we can improve those systems. I firmly believe that we need to use technology, but we have to recognize how the technology was built. So for example, student systems were not built for the community college and was certainly not built for non-credit. And so part of the work we have to do as a non-credit institution is to find ways to make systems work for us. So it takes a lot more effort because they just aren't. From a management perspective, and particularly our SPA employees, and I think so much about our office managers of our five office managers who've had to work so hard keeping things together and running both online and remotely. We are learning from that, and we need to ensure, again, that we come together and have the conversations of what is working, what parts of what is working is going well, what parts might not be going as well, and how do we transfer this into systems that will work for us. And so what I look forward to as the next president is being able to support that infrastructure of conversations and the actual funding that will enable us to work more easily. Because right now it's just really hard to do some simple things because our systems are just not working for us because they weren't written to work for us. And so I'm looking forward to engaging collaboratively in those conversations to figure out exactly what we do need so that all of our employees and all those folks on the front end working with students have the tools they need to properly be able to engage with our students, and that they feel good about the work they're doing, and that's just not so difficult. Thank you.
Recently, this comes from our classified professionals. Recently, between a district-wide hiring freeze implementation due to budget concerns, retirements both planned and unplanned, and pressures brought on by the pandemic, the College of Continuing Education has seen a marked loss in the number of full-time classified professional contracts. How would you, as president, advocate at the district level for increases to classified professional contracts, especially in key areas related to student services and instructional support?
I think it's really important that as we're going through our planning and I'm going to keep talking about the strategic enrollment management plan because it really encompasses everything we're doing in the organization. I think it's really critical that folks bring out into that plan where our gaps are and what our needs are. Not only do we have frozen positions and gaps within each of our campuses, but we have positions that don't currently exist that we need to exist. And so we really have to look at things holistically in terms of what we need as an institution. So as president, my intent would be to very thoughtfully use this plan that we're developing to then work with folks to build out the organizational plan from a human resource perspective. And we really haven't done that. You know, how many folks do we have at the campuses? What types of programs are we offering? Even determining what is it that we're looking at to even identify our service levels. We haven't done that yet. And so what I've actually always thought about doing, and so I would really look forward to doing it as president, is really doing a whole organizational review. I think it's time that we do that. I think it's time that we identify all the gaps we have, not just in the work that we had been doing, but in the work that we are doing that's new to us moving forward. And I think this is really a prime time to do it, as we're looking at, going back to the last question, the technology needs, and how technology is going to help us move forward, but also recognizing that we don't have the technology support we need. So for example, and I'll just go back to one of the previous questions a little bit, we need additional IT support in continuing education. We're the only college in the district who doesn't have an instructional IT person. Our IT folks do everything right now. We don't have someone dedicated. And so from a classified perspective, my intent would be to use that plan as kind of the data to inform the needs, so that I can bring that to our chancellor and our cabinet. Because just saying we don't have the resources or comparing us to another institution, I don't believe is enough. I believe it's critical we have a plan that we can literally show the gaps that will impact our students negatively if we don't fill them. Thank you.
Great. Our next question is from our management group. San Diego College of Continuing Education serves a very diverse student population and community. How does your experience enable you to relate to our students and the communities we serve?
Thank you. I've been serving and working with the San Diego community now in CE for over 10 years, in the district for 18 years, in San Diego for 21 years. And I've been very explicitly working with the CE population since I started with the district. I actually, when I was at the district and working with student services and IT, I was kind of the liaison between student services and IT. And the projects I worked on were CE related. And I would go into CE classrooms, so I understood how folks would be using our systems. And that was kind of my introduction, especially to our ESL population. I have been working with our disadvantaged student population for 20 years, and I've been very explicitly, and I can say certainly since I've been BPI, looking very thoughtfully about how our system supports or does not support our populations. And I'll go back to what I was speaking to before. Our systems, and I've said this before, are racist systems. They were not built for our students. And we need to do something about it, and we need to do that now. And I can remember early in the pandemic, I was on the phone with our then president after recognizing we weren't serving our students. And I remember being hunched over my desk and saying, Carlos, we're not serving them. It's nothing's working. We're not doing it. And I remember that the weight of that. And I just had my one moment, and then I sat back up straight, and I said, okay, so what's next? What do we do? And the what's next was people within CE came up with great ideas of how we might serve our community, like a multilingual help desk through ESL. Working with our students, being in the classroom. I was an instructor in the classroom, and I had a very large class. I was teaching project management for a couple of years. And our students were all over the map in terms of education, in terms of culture and ethnicity. And it was beautiful because in my class, a lot of the work that I led was around group relations and engaging in that diverse environment and helping our students use that diversity as an asset as they worked with one another, as opposed to seeing it as being different, and how we communicated with one another. Before being in higher education, I was in international relations. I worked, and my title was Manager of International Operations. I worked with folks in Europe, in Hong Kong, in Singapore. So my European cities were Luxembourg and the Netherlands. And so I had acquired this understanding of just working outside of I'll just call it my own culture. As a classical music student, I was engaging in all cultures. And so it's a very comfortable place for me that I not only, I celebrate. When I was a dean of business and information technology, I recognized that we were not serving all of the student population that we could be. And it was because we weren't accessible. And I say we weren't accessible because our programs were 25 hours a week. You had to be in the classroom 5 hours a week. Now, if you're a parent, starting a class at 7 a.m. is not going to happen. Starting a class at 3 p.m. is not going to work for you. And so I worked with our faculty in developing meeting patterns that allowed more folks to actually participate in our organization. And as I've been VPI, those are the conversations that I have with leadership. You know, how are we engaging with our community? How are we supporting our diverse students? And then go on top of that, from an equity and inclusivity perspective, what are we doing and not doing? And when I came in as VPI, I actually asked to have a strong leadership role in what we brought forward in convocation, because I felt as if we needed to bring equity into action, specifically in the classroom. And so I brought organizations in to help us. One of the first things we did was equitizing the syllabi. We talked about, equity-minded conversations. This past summer, I worked with our curriculum committee because I basically challenged them to come up with a plan for how we'll work in the curriculum committee to ensure we are equity-minded, culturally minded, as we're reviewing curriculum or as we're helping and supporting others writing that curriculum. So I've been very intentional about inclusivity and equity, but very action-oriented in the classroom. And as president, I would love to be able to bring that approach to the entire organization, because it's the action that we need to be taking to make sure that all of our students are supported and supported well. Thank you.
Thank you. You are about at the halfway mark and have about 26 minutes and 6 questions remaining to include your 3 to 5 minute closing. Perfect segue. You mentioned students. The next question is from our students. As the president, how will you get involved with and show support for building up student leadership and support student engagement?
I'm really excited to be able to engage more with students, and I think engagement is really critical. One thing that is important to recognize is we have many different student populations in the programming we offer. So for example, we have students who have been with CE for a long time in our emeritus program, in our DSPS program, in our ESL programs. But we also have very short-term career education programming where folks are with us maybe just for a semester, maybe 2, maybe 3. And so one thing that I really have a vision from a student engagement perspective is, again, collaborating and meeting with students and listening to students to understand how they want to engage with us, to be asking that question. Now, we have a really strong ASB and amazing faculty advisors and a great coordinator doing that work. But I think one piece that we can look at more closely are the different populations of our students. For example, when I was a dean, one of the things that we did, actually our instructor leading the program really did, was build an alumni network for our project management students. And it was a way to build a network for our, not just for our students and for their future employment, but actually to help us in determining what our next course and program would be. I think it's really critical when we're talking about career ed students that we are helping establish a network for them, because one of the missing pieces that often our students are contending with is they don't have those networks that are going to land them that next job. And so I firmly believe we need to engage in those conversations with our different program groups. One thing I was talking about very recently with our Vice President of Student Services was a conversation about clubs. And I remembered many, many years ago, it was something we had talked about in CE. And all I remember was we were told we couldn't do it for some reason. I don't know if it was ed code. I don't know if it was funding. I don't recall. But one thing I said is, let's revisit this. We know that when students are engaged with the institution outside of the classroom, their success is going to grow because those cohorts and that peer-to-peer support is so important. We've seen that in a number of the work that we're doing through our foundation, through our gateway programs. That is those cohorts and those peers that really, really enable our students to move forward. And so that's how I would approach building out student engagement.
Great. The next question is from our faculty. How will you participate in, lead, and support the participatory governance structure at the San Diego College of Continuing Education and the district?
Thank you. This is actually a conversation I was having with some faculty earlier this week. I think it's really important, and I've thought for a very long time since I was Dean of Institutional Effectiveness, that's really important that our participatory governance committees are working committees, that we're working towards something. And we're right at the stage now that we're going to be reviewing our committees again. And one recommendation I had just this week was that we ask the question of what kind of action has your committee taken? What kind of work is your committee doing? What are your goals and are you meeting your goals, but what kind of action is being taken? And I think that review is really critical, especially at this time, because it's going to tie back into, again, that strategic enrollment management plan, where we want to ensure that everything we're doing in our organization is leading us towards something, is leading us towards student success, is leading us towards building those systems and processes that are going to be there for our students to be successful, that are going to be there to improve our work lives in our organization. And so I'm a very strong believer in using that participatory governance structure. The Access, Retention, Completion Committee leading the strategic enrollment management is just one of those models that we're talking about. And I'm a tri-chair of that committee. So I'm in great belief that that's really critical. And I do think that rolls up into the district. I know that we're starting to have meetings around strategic planning for the district, and being part of non-credit and being on so many of those district committees, it's very often that there's only a few minutes that we talk about anything non-credit related. And it's really time that non-credit be brought into the full district in terms of some of those conversations. And that's happening to some degree, including with President Shabazz here. We were just working on some things together recently. But the participatory governance structure, we really need to ensure that continuing ed and continuing ed's needs are represented. And so it's really important when we have representatives on those district committees that we're internal on our internal committees, making sure we're on the same page and really pushing an agenda of supporting non-credit. Thank you.
Thank you. The next question comes from the SPA group. The college, San Diego College of Continuing Education recently went through a strategic planning process where some of the major institutional challenges identified by stakeholders were the existence of silos, the lack of cross-departmental collaboration, and ineffective communication. How would you address these problems?
One of our approaches to the strategic enrollment management work that I've been talking about is not just about the outcome of the work, but it's how we're engaging in the work. Because it's our intent that the engagement in that work is different than we've ever done before. And what I mean by that is that the actual work we're doing now in developing that plan, the way we're working together actually creates those collaborative and that interaction and that trust between one another that hasn't existed before. I am very aware of those silos. I actually, I completed my dissertation just 2 years ago, and it had to do with guided pathways and silos. And so it's near and dear to me. And so with great intention, the work I'm doing in collaboration with our Vice President of Student Services is to remove those silos. And that's the intent. And we talk about that as we've been doing this work, we've been talking about that. But that has to be nurtured throughout everything we do in the institution. And that is how I'm actually looking at things. How do we integrate? How do we build trust? Everything we do, it's not just about what we're doing, but it's about the how we're doing it. And so my intent as president is for that to be a very clear lens, the lens of collaboration, the lens of building trust, because we will not be successful if we continue to exist in silos. It's just too hard. Doing the work is too hard. And it's hard for everyone's passions to come into the work when it's so hard. So my vision as president is that with intentionality, our work is literally to remove the silos. And there will be things that come up that we have to address. Something came up this week that, it's that's seeming very silo-like. How do we bring that together? So as a leader of the institution, my intent as president is to be very focused on the removal of silos and building trust within the organization. Thank you.
Classified professionals often are unable to fully engage in participatory governance, professional development, and other expected and necessary contributions to the college beyond their regular contracted obligations. Describe how you, as president, would support classified professionals' development in ways that go beyond the scope of regular duties and assignments.
Thank you for that question. President Shabazz, can you just tell me how many more questions we do have?
You have one after, so two, including the one I just.
Okay, thank you.
In your closing remarks.
Thank you. I've been very much thinking about professional development and growth for all of our employees. As Vice President of Instruction, I've been very focused on ensuring that our faculty have access to professional development. And I talked a little bit about the development of the distance ed mentoring program. That program has expanded into really teaching and learning and improving the quality of teaching and learning. We also have our Passport to Success program that started out as just faculty that has grown to include all of our constituents, our classified professionals, as well as managers. That too is a silo, right? We have all these disparate professional development groups. We have our new professional development coordinator, new by a couple of, it's pre-COVID, but it feels new. So we've been doing tremendous work in different areas, but we haven't focused on our classified professionals. And I think that's really critical for us. And so it's something I've been thinking about because I really envision the creation of, the center of excellence for teaching, learning, and training. So my intent as president is to take the vision and some of that structure I created and worked with faculty to build, create and work with classified to build, and let's bring that into a fold because everything is integrated. And the work of our classified professionals, they meet with our students before anyone else meets with our students. And we have to provide those tools. We have to make things easier and ensure that folks are comfortable in the roles that they're in, but also have growth opportunities because that's how we grow as an institution. So from a presidential perspective, my vision is to create this center of training. And I think it's really critical that our classified professionals are part of building that. With everything that I've been talking about today, it's all about bringing folks together, listening to people to understand what the needs are, and then help develop those needs and or go outside to help to bring someone in to help us coordinate and bring out that information from folks so that we are making the best decisions possible. Yes, funding is always a challenge. However, if we are supporting all of our employees in being the best possible people they can be in their roles, but how they can be in terms of working with our students, that's how we're going to have student success. So I think it's going to be critical that we engage together in that work.
So we have reached the final question before your closing remarks. What are the core values that drive your decision-making?
One thing that is near and dear to me is my integrity. And I remember, this is many, many years ago, I was looking at a potential VP position and I was talking to one of my mentors. And she said to me, I know you can do this job, but I'm concerned for you. You won't be asked to do something illegal, but you're going to be asked to do something that goes against your integrity. And so what I bring to this institution, and I hope I have displayed in my over 10 years here and 8 years at the district, is that I come to my work with that lens of, I want to do what's right. I want to do what is going to be most helpful for the organization. I am here today because I want to be of service to our organization. I stepped into the VP role because I wanted to be of service, and I thought at that moment in time, I was going to be the best fit to help our faculty in particular feel included in our institution. And so from a moral compass perspective, I have a deeply held ethics and values around inclusivity, around fairness, around doing only what I believe is right. And if someone asks us to do something that is outside of that, I'm going to push back. Now, I'll push back and have another idea because that's always important. But integrity is everything to me. Inclusivity, bringing in all the diverse elements of our institution, the people we work and serve with. That's who I'm about. So I'll just end that question with, my integrity drives everything that I do.
Well, thank you again. I will have some closing remarks for those who are watching live via YouTube, but Dr. Fischthal, now is the opportunity to provide your closing remarks to those who are watching.
Thank you. And I want to thank you all for your thoughtful questions and providing me with the opportunity to hear what's on your mind and to speak and respond a little bit to what's important to you and our CE community. It would be my absolute honor to be your next president. I also want to share that I have not been applying to other presidencies. My visions and plans are both short and long term. I'm not here to build a portfolio for the next few years to then move on to something else. I'm here today because at this moment in time, I believe we must have a leader who is already firmly leading CE to its future, who can continue this work in collaboration with faculty, staff, and students without skipping a beat, a leader who has been a committed and trustworthy member of this community for over a decade and wants to dedicate the next decade to serving alongside all of you. We need a leader who is visionary and innovative and has integrity, someone who provides a sense of calm and strength at a time when there is so much uncertainty. Someone who will work together to build equity, inclusivity, and anti-racism deep into all of our work. And someone compassionate who recognizes folks are experiencing trauma and chronic stress and has experiencing working in an environment, and as a change leader, as we thoughtfully innovate to move into our future. I am that leader, having demonstrated my innovative, solid, visionary leadership and intentionality for inclusivity and equity, institutional improvement, along with my passion for and deep commitment to the continuing education community. So I vow to you that I am committed to continuing working together with transparency, increasing communication and collaboration, removing silos, and supporting all employees to be able to bring their passions and best selves to their work and feel valued. I am committed to supporting the change required to make it easier for our students and community to access our programs and services, have a positive experience throughout their journey at CE, and reach their goals. A non-credit leader must advocate locally, regional, statewide, nationally. Advocacy is a daily occurrence that I have been staunchly supporting for over a decade. Advocating for equity and inclusivity for non-credit is at my core. I am recognized for my leadership statewide, and I love doing it. It's who I am, and it's who we are at CE. Being a non-credit leader, and we are all leaders, is an art form. You need to pick things out of a conversation that pertain to non-credit while being on high alert, always, for decisions or policies that could harm our students and us. And I've mastered that art form. My ability to think globally has prepared me well to lead CE and have a strong voice at Chancellor's Cabinet. My extensive experience in leading organizations during fiscal challenges and organizational change while also being able to honor an institution's past and embrace its future is critical. I have that breadth and depth of experience, the cultural understanding of continuing education, community and state relationships to lead, support, and advocate for CE and its constituents. So I hope I continue being of service and providing that stability and leadership needed at the College of Continuing Education and the San Diego community, building partnerships, collaborating, helping our students succeed, and thus our communities and our economy. This work is my calling. I am so appreciative to have had the opportunity to express and share myself, a little bit of myself, and my vision for the San Diego College of Continuing Education. And I remain humbled to even be here with all of you today and among this group of finalists. I so appreciate everyone who has taken the time to be part of this vital selection process. And I must thank all my family, friends, colleagues, students who have supported me throughout this process. And President Shabazz, thank you for leading this important effort for San Diego College of Continuing Education. Thank you.
Well, Dr. Fischthal, thank you for spending the afternoon with us, allowing us to get to know you a little better. I want to point out to you, as well as those watching live via YouTube, what the next steps are. So we will be having our 3 finalists today. The 3 finalists will be meeting with the board, and then the person who is elected to move forward will have a campus visit. And Human Resources and the Chancellor will communicate with that person. But again, congratulations on making it to this level. We wish you well, and thank you again for taking some time out of your afternoon. Take care. Enjoy the rest of your day.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone.
For those who are watching live on YouTube, we are going to stop the YouTube. This video will remain up on the College of Continuing Education's website so that those who did not watch live can view it. Or you can watch it again. You will receive an email at the end of the day to provide some feedback on all of the candidates that are being featured today. Take care, everyone, and you'll need to log back out and sign back in, and we'll see you momentarily with our second candidate.